We're here to talk through a couple Minesweepers. Each of them has a box theme, but in different ways. This puzzle has a visual box in the center, the whole set of twos, and what we'll see is we have to work in and around this box eventually to get to the solution. As we're getting started, though, one thing to notice are places where there are pairs of clues where there's just limitations of how you can put mines around them. So if this 1 and 2, they both see these 4 cells, so at most there's one mine there. And there's one leftover cell that the 2 sees and the 1 clue doesn't see, which can take a mine. So at the start, you can place a mine in the cell, and you can also mark these as unusable. Similarly, for this 1-2 pair, you can mark these as a mine cell. The one that remains for the whole clue is in these 4 shared cells that they both see. And while it's not maybe as critical to see in the lower right at the start, there's a similar spot up here for 3 and 1. Here there are actually 2 extra cells that the 3 sees, but there's also a difference of 2 in the count between 3 and 1. So these must be mines. One of these 3 cells is the last mine, and then these 3 on the far side of a 1 aren't usable. Having marked that seed, there's now a way that these 2 clues interact, which is that there's only 1 mine left that can go in these cells based on this side. And if that's true, not only is this a mine, but the last mine is right here, so we can do some cancellation around the spot. Doing that cancellation now does certain things like this clue only sees 2 spots. This clue only sees 2 spots. The 4 only has 4 spots left. The 5 now actually only has these spots left. We can work into either the lower right or upper left at this time. One thing to see is that there is 1 mine in one of these 2 cells to fulfill that clue. The last mine for this 2 clue here has to be in this spot. This 2 sees this mine and this mine, so nothing more left. The 4 at the top is basically completed. This 2 needs to see 1 mine in one of these cells. It's the max number available there, and 1 mine in one of these cells, which is the max available there. This is a pattern that forces the 2 mines to split apart so that you get 1 for this clue, 1 for that clue, and overall you can get a 2 for the clue that's between them. We'll come back here. We'll have to sort of make a little progress here to force the top. You could use uniqueness now, but we'll do it logically. Some of these clues are completed, so we can mark them in. These are the 2 mines seen by this clue, so this isn't a cell anymore. The 1 is completed. This is just forced from what we see. Now we return to what we talked about at the start with this 1-2 pair, 3 cells in common, plus 1 extra, so the extra mine is used. 1 of these 3 cells is used. These aren't usable. That now gets us to this spot where we once again have an interaction of these adjacent clues like we had up here. There's only 1 more mine at most to be seen from these spots, and it has to be there. Moreover, once we know that these are the 2 spots the mines see, this cell is not usable, and that actually will help us complete the rest of this. We do have to get a full set of mines, and this clue only has 2 spots left it can look at. So putting those in completes the top. Marking this as unusable, we now get a spot where there is at most 1 mine in these cells. This 4 has to be used. This cell is already there. And doing that, we finish the puzzle. So a lot of common Minesweeper, I'll call them sort of intermediate deductions, where you look at clues together, particularly adjacent clues, but even how these paired clues here work together. And some of the useful notation marking these spots where you know a mine, but no more than 1 mine goes, will help. And when you actually get to double Minesweeper puzzles, some of that intermediate information will be really great. So here we wanted to also highlight what may have been a challenging or frustrating puzzle for some solvers, which was the second boxy theme from John Bulten. And this is actually a puzzle we edited carefully to make sure that both of these corners were equally difficult and required the same kind of intuitive or aha moment kind of solve, and the intuition comes from looking at these clues specifically, but we can at least put into the grid some of the basic steps everyone will get. And you'll see that these corners were also made to be boxes and also have the same kind of symmetry as the other parts of the grid, and were therefore part of the theme. But besides marking these, there's not a ton we can do until we think about these boxes. And so the way to think about the boxes is to think that there are essentially sets of shared cells that are seen by these clues. And particularly it's looking at the corner pairs of these clues. So this one and this one see a set of these 5 cells and these 5 cells, and overall see 2 mines. And this 2 and that 2 see these 10 cells and see a total of 4 mines. But the 8 cells that I've boxed are in common. And so what we can say is that these 8 cells have a maximum of 2 mines. And that's because if this one and this one sees all of these cells, basically we can say in that box there's greater than or equal to 2 mines. But, there's less than or equal to 2 mines in these. We couldn't put 2 in these spots. That would violate this clue. The other constraint is going to come from this side, where these larger clues, they also see a total of 10 cells. They would say that there are no more than 4 mines in the spot. But if there aren't at least 2 cells in the 8 marked spaces, they can't actually get up to 4. And so the way that these clues work is effectively to say that these unshared cells in the corners must be mines around the big clue, and they must be unused around the small clue. And then you'll see that there are 2 total mines in these boxes, which fulfills this and the remainder of this. And the same thing is true down here. It's just using 3 and 2 as opposed to 2 and 1, that there are a total of 4 mines in these 8 cells, which will fulfill these clues. And then with these 2 extra mines accounted for, they're the same 4 mines will finish those out. And so the real first step of the puzzle is to figure out this interaction, which is now a 4-cell interaction with all of these clues, to get these corner mines and these corner unused. And having them, the puzzle becomes somewhat easier. For instance, we can mark most of this side straight away. This is going to have a mine here, so these are unused. The 5 has just enough cells. The 3 is there. 1 cell left over for this. There's 1, 2 mines. So this completes the 4. Not as much immediately we can do here. This 2 and this 3 are set up, though, by this corner mine, where there's a maximum of 1 mine here, and the 3 is going to need to take these remaining 2 to complete. This 2 and this 2, there's now at most 1 mine here, so this gets used. These get canceled, this gets used, this is canceled, this is used, these get canceled. We need to get 1 mine here. For this clue, there's 1 mine here. We now have a total of 2 mines around this clue already, and a need for 1 in these cells, a need for 1 in these cells. So this is where, because the count is 3, they're going to hit the intersection point. Finishing this out, there's 1, 2, 3, so this is 4, 5, 6. That cancels here. That also cancels here. And we got through this grid. So I don't know if you were patient enough to see this intro aha moment for this puzzle, but I think it was a really clever setting that John put in and made a good Friday level Minesweeper challenge. There aren't actually a lot of very hard Minesweeper puzzles that we get submitted, so this was a nice discovery. And I think you saw again how thinking about clues together in different spots, particularly marking these partial things, are quite useful. So hopefully this helps you get started on Minesweeper, helps you get started on a notation that might work for the double Minesweeper puzzles, and we'll see you again soon.